Motrolics.
Hello and welcome to the 10th episode of the Cadillac Society podcast, the show where we discuss the latest news, rumors, and anything else surrounding the iconic luxury marque. On today's episode, the stunning Cadillac Celestiq concept. I'm Alexander Luft, and as our regular patrons may have already noticed, today will be a slightly different kind of show where it's just me. I'll tell you why that's the case here in just a second. Now, we do keep getting more and more listeners, viewers, and subscribers, so I'd like to take a moment to remind our new patrons where you can find us. First and foremost, CadillacSociety.com/podcast. That is the place to watch, to listen, and to subscribe to this show. You can also find us in all the popular podcatchers, and I have to ask that if you enjoy this show, please share it, tweet it, put it on Facebook, send the YouTube link to your friends. We want even more people to know and to listen and to watch the Cadillac Society podcast. One last thing before we get into Solay. Now, we've been promising you a show about production numbers, specifically production numbers of the Cadillac CT6 with the Blackwing V8 engine. And in fact, this show right here was supposed to have been that very show. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, depending on how you look at it, Cadillac did surprise us with the news of Solay, so that kind of tends to take precedence over topics that we could cover later on. So we still will have a show about the CT6 production numbers with the Blackwing engine. I'm hoping that it will be next show. You just never know what might happen next week, but we will have that show. We don't mean to keep punting this topic, but it's just something that's been happening. So I apologize for that happening. We will cover it. So we have a different format today because I'm actually stuck in Detroit. I was initially here to drive some new vehicles, not Cadillacs, other kinds of vehicles, other brands rather. And when I got to the airport to go back home on Friday evening, my flight back to South Florida was actually canceled due to the CrowdStrike and Microsoft debacle, and that's been really wreaking havoc on all kinds of companies, including airlines, and well, in my case, airlines. So since then, I've been rebooked on not one, not two, not three, not four, but five different flights I've been rebooked on, all of which have been canceled. So I ended up booking a totally different flight that's not a Delta flight. That was my original airline. So I'll be coming back home on Monday, which is the day that the Solay will debut. So as a result, my good friend G is not here on this one with us. And that's the reason for that. And that's also the reason for what I assume to be slightly worse or maybe significantly worse audio quality as a result of me not having all the equipment that I typically have. So fear not, my good friend G will be back for the next episode and the audio quality will return to normal. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's talk shop. So on Friday, I attended a private showing of the car about which we will talk today. That car is none other than the Cadillac Celestiq concept. It's a 2+2 convertible that is essentially a Cadillac Celestiq Convertible, but with a different name. The name Solay, so it's Sollei, and that stands for soul, so that means sun, and then lay are the first three letters in the word leisure. And Cadillac says that the Solay name represents Cadillac's optimistic inspiration for an open-air, leisurely lifestyle. So the debut venue here is also worth noting before we get really into the car. So Cadillac officially revealed the Solay at kind of a private showing that, like I said, I attended at the Cadillac House at Vanderbilt. And this is a newly restored state-of-the-art facility within the GM Global Technical Center campus in Warren, Michigan. And this building in particular, it serves as the place where Celestiq buyers come to design their Celestiq. Now, this is not a new building. It was actually, previously it was the cafeteria or the restaurant for the Warren Tech Center. And it has been restored. I mean, to the studs, this thing has been restored. It's a beautiful, beautiful facility. In fact, we will have a short tour of this facility, kind of a first look video on the Metrolix YouTube channel. So if you want to see that, go to youtube.com/Metrolix or type in Metrolix, Motrolix, into the YouTube search bar. Or you could just go to CadillacSociety.com. We will have that video on there as well. So it has been completely restored. It's a beautiful building. It is named after Suzanne E. Vanderbilt, who was a GM designer. She was part of the Damsels of Design group of automotive designers hired by Harley Earl, who of course was the GM VP of design back in the 1950s. Back to the Solay. So in its press release, Cadillac says the following. It really describes the Solay as, quote, the ultimate design expression of a coach-built luxury electric convertible. This imaginative design exercise pushes the boundaries of future bespoke commissions tailored to reflect the unique passions and interests of its clientele, end quote. So, the Solay is a convertible. It is a big electric convertible, and it's low. It's low, it's long, it has a wide stance. In fact, let me come back to the long part of the equation here. So it's long because it is the Celestiq, which from what I recall, it measures in at 217 inches in length, if I'm not mistaken. The Celestiq does. And the Solay is, it has the same footprint, same wheelbase. Everything about the actual size of the car is the same as the Celestiq. So with the Celestiq already being a big, long, fastback style sedan, you could just imagine how big the Solay is if it's the same length. So yes, it is. When I say it's long, it is very, very, very long, and it's quite wide as well. In fact, the Celestiq is longer than the regular length Cadillac Escalade, the internal combustion engine model, not the IQ. So the Celestiq is longer than that model, but it is shorter than the Escalade ESV, the extended length variant of the Escalade. So long, low, and in fact that length also enables the Solay to have very long doors that facilitate easy access to the rear seat, which in and of itself is quite spacious because, again, this is it's a Celestiq with obviously a reconfigured door architecture, reconfigured rear end. It's actually a redesigned rear end compared to the Celestiq. I'll get into that here in a minute. And it also, as a result of being the same length, it also has roughly the same interior dimensions, just with 2 fewer doors. But as a result of that, reconfiguration of the doors, the front doors and the only doors in the Solay actually have grown. They are quite long. So I guess what I'm getting at here is this thing is long. I don't know if that comes across in photos and videos, but in person, it's quite a long and stunning vehicle. The body is finished in a color that Cadillac calls Manila Cream, which was a color that was originally used on Cadillacs in 1957 as well as 1958. And Cadillac says that the color celebrates its heritage of bold colors. And in fact, for the Solay, this revived color was meticulously curated and hand-painted by Cadillac craftsmen. There's no B-pillar, and that really enables a unique DLO profile, which is quite nice and quite fitting with the vehicle itself. It does have a soft top, so it's not a hard top. The color of the soft top, it's called Daybreak, and Cadillac says that the Daybreak name ties to the functionality of the Solay's convertible roof. In fact, I had a whole discussion at this reveal event with Michael Simcoe, who is, of course, GM's chief of design. So I asked him, I said, why did you guys decide to go with a soft top instead of a hard top? And essentially the reason is that with the hard top, it takes up so much space, and it takes up so much of the general vehicle's structure that it essentially limits what kind of a design that you can do compared to a soft top. So that's the reason for the soft top instead of a hard top. And I've had some time to digest the Solay concept after seeing it. And what I've noticed is that essentially every ultra luxury convertible, so Bentley, Rolls-Royce, essentially those two, they don't make a hardtop convertible. Their convertibles are soft tops. Beyond that, that seems to be now becoming a trend, making soft top convertibles rather than hard tops. If you look across the industry, you have vehicles that have historically been hardtop convertibles, like for instance the Mercedes-Benz SL. For the latest generation, it has now switched from a hardtop to a soft top exclusive configuration. So I guess my point is that soft tops is where it's at right now for these kinds of vehicles. Now the front end of the Solay, it is straight off of the Celestiq. So it's the front end, the front fascia, and I believe the hood as well. They are straight off of the Celestiq. So if you know how the Celestiq looks like from the front, then you know how the Solay looks like from the front as well. Some design details about the exterior. So the Solay features uninterrupted surfaces and a stretched A-line that emphasize the length, which, like I said, it's the same as the Celestiq. So this is not a shortened vehicle just because it has two fewer doors. Again, this is a full-size convertible four-seater with plenty of room even for those in the second row. Now this is where the Solay is different from the Celestiq, and it's at the rear. So the Solay features a low tail design that creates very dynamic proportions that are also elegant. It has this very interesting dynamic between being modern but also very, very elegant. There's all kinds of lines. So there's, like the mid-body line that essentially connects the headlamp to the tail lamp, unifying the entire design in a very neat fashion. The conventional door handles have been replaced with discrete buttons that help enable a very clean profile line. And that's, of course, something that the Solay inherits from the Celestiq, but not completely. So those of you who have seen or maybe studied the Celestiq, you probably have noticed that it doesn't have any door handles either. Instead, it has these buttons on the pillars to release the doors. Well, the Solay doesn't have a B pillar, and therefore there's really nowhere to put them. So they put them in a different location, and it's very clean, very nice. 23-inch wheels, just like on the Celestiq. Exterior lighting choreography for arrival and departure, just like on the Celestiq. Of course, with a modified rear end and modified rear lighting that is quite a bit different on the Solay. The windshield is milled brushed aluminum. And a little interesting detail, Cadillac finished the primary metal finishes on the Solay in an accent color that it calls Aurora, which is kind of like this rosé color. And interestingly enough, Cadillac also says that the Aurora tint includes color shifting to reflect the phenomenon of the sun's solar winds reacting with the Earth's atmosphere. Let me give you another quote here that I actually personally found quite interesting. This is from Erin Crossley, who is the design director at Cadillac. She says, quote, "Solay reimagines the discovery of travel, envisioning a personalized driving experience that connects one with the natural world around them. The concept celebrates Cadillac's pedigree of elegant convertibles in a modern form by cultivating high luxury through design expressions and experiences," end quote. That's quite interesting, and it's quite a mouthful, but this does give us a better idea of what they're thinking and what they're going for with the Solay. In fact, there is this other bit here that says that Solay celebrates the optimism of travel and the celestial environment with its rich sensory engagement, unexpected discoveries, and sense of occasion, end quote. I personally would say that the exterior is gorgeous. It is gorgeous. Say what you will about the Celestiq. I know that on the Celestiq there are those who they're not really, I'd say, fans of the profile, the hatchback-like, fastback-like profile. They would have preferred the Celestiq to have been a traditional three-box sedan or something that has a different form at the rear there especially. So say what you will about the Celestiq, but this Solay is drop dead gorgeous. And I personally find it just very cool that Cadillac designers have found a way to make a modern vehicle, but also one that takes Cadillac's rich history into account. It's almost like a modern retro kind of design where you still get a modern vehicle with all kinds of modern accents. Look at things, say, like the lighting choreography at the front, or the grille. That also has lights, LEDs in it. The black crystal grille. That part of it looks very modern. But then you look at it from the side, and you kind of start getting hints of, Cadillac's big coupes from the past, especially the way that the rear end is treated, with that really nice horizontally oriented set of taillights, plus the vertically oriented taillights below them. It looks good. It looks good. It looks good in a retro and modern way. And this is a good time as any to say that CadillacSociety.com actually showed you a rendering of this very car just about a year ago. In fact, on April 8th of 2023. I'll include the link in the show notes, but we actually rendered a yellowish, which is roughly this color, right? The Manila cream color that the Solay is actually finished in. But in any event, we did render this vehicle. We rendered a Celestiq Convertible. We didn't know what name it was going to take, but we knew that there was something going on with the Celestiq and two doors and no roof. So putting all those things together, we rendered that, and it actually came out really good. Not as good as the Solay, but I will take just a second here to toot our own horn and to tell you, we told you that they're working on something. All right, let's take a look now at the interior. So I'll use another quote here from Cadillac. Quote, "The interior of Solay channels Cadillac's art of travel, design philosophy, elevating the travel experience for both the driver and the passenger," end quote. So the interior is essentially that of the Celestiq, especially the cockpit, the way, the 55-inch curved pillar-to-pillar screen, the front command center below it, essentially all the controls. I think the steering wheel is also the same. I think really everything about the cockpit is the same. But what's not the same is, first and foremost, the colorway. So the colorway that is used on the Solay is just stunning. So they're using fine apple leather with a pink iridescent pigment, which creates a subtle kind of color changing effect. I already mentioned that earlier. So that's the leather, the seats, the dash, for instance, right? But then the decor, the interior decor, it is wrapped in unstained wood veneers, which also honors the natural color and grain pattern variations. And then the surfaces feature open pore finishes that can be felt to the touch. Each piece is hand cut and hand laid using marquetry techniques, thereby creating a beautiful focal point that draws the eye from the front doors to the console and into the rear compartment. That's what Cadillac says, and I will tell you that every part of that right there that I read is absolutely true. It's stunning. Very nice wood accenting, and it just screams it doesn't just scream luxury, it screams hyper luxury, ultra luxury, however you want to call that. It screams class, money. The best thing I could describe it as is in the movie Caddyshack. It screams that whole country club right there. You know, the judge who was christening his boat, you know, that kind of boat that he had, it just screams of belonging in that kind of environment. But obviously today, not back in the Caddyshack age, which was, you know, in the early 80s from what I recall. So very beautiful interior, a lot of different details, but it is ultimately a Celestiq interior, but with, you know, different finishes and different craftsmanship and different things related to that. In fact, here's another thing that Cadillac says about the interior, quote, "Every detail is intentionally designed to transform the ordinary into the extraordinary," end quote. It also has, if all that wasn't enough, illuminated decor and unique embellishments which aim to add expression to the vehicle's unparalleled aesthetics. There is a rear command console for the two rear seat passengers to control things like the air conditioning and whatever other, you know, seat related features. So basically, there's a front command center for the front two seats, and then there's also a rear command center for the rear two seats. And then get this, there is a fully integrated beverage chiller with a power glass door and crystal glasses, seamlessly blending leisure with travel. So basically now you can have your Veuve Clicquot, right, or your Chandon, or whatever kind of bourgeois drink you like to have. You can have that chilling in that fully integrated chiller. It's between the two rear seats, you know, in that waterfall area between the two rear seats. And you know, whenever you decide to pull over during that drive to or from the country club, or wherever it is that you're going, you can simply, you know, have a sip of that bubbly. But wait, there's more. There is a pink iridescent hue on the beverage chiller door, as well as the glass tray in the rear compartment that houses both items. And that hue, it really reveals different sunlight exposures. So really cool, really cool. You've got to see the stuff in person to really appreciate it. The pictures and the video here, they help in understanding this, but they don't do it justice. They don't do the car justice, and they don't do the details justice either. But that's what we have to work with for now. There's also this. So Solay is Cadillac's first concept vehicle to incorporate an innovative bio-based material developed in collaboration with MecoWorks. So this particular material is called fine mycelium by MecoWorks, and it is used in the charging mats on the console and on the door map pockets. Now this material, as the name implies, it's grown from mycelium, which is the renewable root structure of mushrooms. And Cadillac says that, quote, "The material reflects Cadillac's mission to pioneer renewable automotive resources," end quote. There is also ambient lighting for all kinds of customization. This thing can do anything from an ambient light standpoint. So it has multiple zones, 126 color options in each zone, and the lighting can evoke specific moods and really personalize the interior ambiance. There's also a textured floor mat material that Cadillac calls Basque, which is a buccal fabric that adds beautiful texture and subtle warmth, matching the color of the roof material and keeping the whole interior very light. And here's something I never thought I would be discussing on a Cadillac show, but bird watching, which some at Cadillac have told me recently during this reveal event, actually. They've told me that bird watching is kind of having a moment right now. So for bird watching fans, Solay has a unique interior accessory in the form of a custom brushed metal and leather wrapped case that houses 3D printed acrylic bird calls, along with a leather bound journal with hand painted bird illustrations. and a leather tool roll for pens and pencils, which is made to custom match the concept's interior. And all of this obviously allows enthusiasts to capture their bird watching experiences. So if you're into bird watching, you can just watch away in the Solay. Did not mean for that to rhyme, but it did. All right, let's now talk about the mechanical nature of the Solay concept. So mechanically, the Solay is exactly the same as the Celestiq. It has the same wheelbase. In fact, the Solay was essentially the way it came about, this one build that they have. What they've done is they took a Celestiq and then they modified it to be the Solay. So that means that there's a 111 kilowatt hour battery pack on board, powering a dual motor all-wheel drive propulsion system on the Celestiq that delivers 300 miles of maximum driving range per charge, along with 600 horsepower and 640 pound-feet of torque. All right, so now let's talk about the elephant in the room, which, at least to me, is whether or not Cadillac will actually bring the Solay concept to production. Now, everyone I've talked to at this event, they have neither denied nor confirmed plans to bring the Solay concept to production. I spoke to John Roth, the president of Cadillac. He couldn't deny or confirm it, and basically one of the things he also said was that they haven't really reached a point where they could, even discuss that yet, bringing it to production, that is. And in fact, everyone I've talked to just kept calling it a design exploration. But here's something interesting from the press release. In fact, there's one thing I'm going to tell you here from the press release, and then another thing that caught my ear. So let me start with the part from the press release. Here's something to note. Quote, "The Solay Convertible exercise represents the brand's vision to offer modern design, this time in an open-air format, inspired by iconic Cadillacs from the past," end quote. So that part specifically about the Solay Convertible exercise represents the brand's vision to offer modern design. Represents the brand's vision to offer modern design. So I guess that supports the notion that this is a design exploration. Okay, fine. Well, then how about this? So during John Roth's presentation, when he went up in front of the small crowd, it was a very intimate event, this reveal. So he went up in front of the crowd and, he said a few words. And one of the things that he said specifically was he called the Celestiq, before revealing the Solay, the first ultra-luxury EV. Let's have a listen here.
Showcase an incredible concept vehicle, really amazing design exploration on where we could head next. But before we dive into the vehicle, I just wanted to take a moment and introduce you to this iconic building. This is the Cadillac House at Vanderbilt, and this is really where our Cadillac clients get an opportunity to come firsthand and have a very bespoke experience with designers at General Motors, at Cadillac, to design an ultra-luxury, the first ultra-luxury EV, Cadillac Celestiq.
The first. Why say the first if there isn't a second? That's a very interesting way of expressing oneself. And I might be reading too much into this, but I wouldn't say the first. Personally, I wouldn't say that this is the first of something if there weren't plans to have a second. So I personally think that Cadillac can very much bring the Solay to production in exactly the same way, in exactly the same way that they brought the Celestiq to production. What I mean by that is that they simply can hand build it. They can price it at the same level that they priced the Celestiq, or maybe even higher, who knows, and call it a day, essentially. So yes, hand built, $300,000 to $400,000, maybe even higher, depending on how the vehicle is configured and the materials it's configured with. But the point is that yes, the Solay, if it were to come to production, it would still very much be an elite kind of vehicle. And I guess we could talk about what it would take to bring something like the Solay to market. So it wouldn't take that much, but it also wouldn't be like a snap your fingers kind of thing, and there it goes rolling off the production line or the hand built production line and into customers' driveways. No, that's not the way this would work. There would a level of effort to bring it to market would be somewhere kind of in the middle. So they would have to, due to the removal of the roof, they would have to rework the body, specifically rework the materials, the metals that the body is made of, and different subframes, perhaps different architectural stuff. That would have to be reworked in order to account for the lack of a roof, which with traditional vehicles today, traditional meaning those that have an actual roof. So the Celestiq, I would call it a traditional vehicle. The roof represents a huge part of the actual vehicle's structure. It's not, if you chop the roof off, then you get more other things taking place. So maybe you get more flex. Maybe that added level of flex doesn't enable the vehicle to pass crash test safety ratings. Maybe there's reinforcements as a result of that will need to be done, whether in the unibody construction, outside of the unibody construction, what have you. But the point is that there will be some engineering effort, some of that. There will be some effort on the part of safety and crash test related items as well that are convertible specific. So rollover, things like that. How are they protecting the occupants from that? And a few other things that go along with convertible related stuff. They would have to source new buttons, new mechanisms for opening doors, things like that. The stampings would need to be modified. I assume that the A-pillars would need to be strengthened as well. And, the rear end being different, different trunk, different deck lid, different rear end really entirely. The upper portion of the rear end, at least. All of that would need to get, redone, re-engineered, redesigned, re-crash tested, the suppliers would need to be put on board. All that stuff will need to take place. So this is not a matter of taking a Celestiq, chopping off a roof, and building one of one, which is what Cadillac did for the sake of the concept. No, that there would be more involved. But again, my take, I think that they'll be able to do all that. I think that they really want to do all that, and I don't see how they can't bring this to market in the same way that they brought the Celestiq to market. So again, hand-built, a very high price, and that same kind of personal, intricate experience that currently Celestiq customers are seeing, that would also apply to the Solay, or I guess when it reaches, if it reaches production, then the Solay would actually also need a new name, because it would need a name that ends in IQ. So Solaic? I don't know. I don't know if that's something that they would go with, or maybe call it a Celestiq Convertible, although I'm sure that they would want a separate name, again, if this were to go to production. And on that note, I actually can also see, if the convertible gets approved, I can also see a coupe version being made as well. And this is quite ironic, because only a few episodes ago, I think it was on episode 6, that I asked, how can Cadillac take itself seriously? How can Cadillac say that it's serious about being a luxury brand without having a coupe in its lineup? And of course, the coupe being the epitome of a luxury vehicle. And the same I would say about a convertible. I'd say that whenever a coupe is born into a lineup, then it should also result in a convertible as well. So that's about it. It's a gorgeous car. If you haven't seen it, if you're listening on audio, I really recommend that you pull up this episode in video and take a look at the photos and videos that we have. And I say that because, the photos and videos, they don't do the Solay justice. They just don't. This car in person is beautiful. And if photos and videos don't do the Solay justice, then audio only, then listening, to the design instead of actually seeing it, it does, not only does the audio only version not do it justice, it just does not even come close to it. All right, I think that's all. Thank you so much for joining me on the 10th episode of the Cadillac Society podcast. That's right, we have hit 10, which is kind of a big accomplishment for myself and for my co-host G. So congratulations to us. You can find this show at CadillacSociety.com/podcast and on the Metrolix Network YouTube channel. Please remember to hit that like button and give us a follow or subscribe. We are also on your favorite podcatchers, so be sure to subscribe and leave us a review there. And if you would like us to discuss something specific, you can now suggest a topic by going to CadillacSociety.com/podcast. And as I mentioned in the beginning, if you enjoyed this show, then please share it, tweet it, put it on Facebook, send the YouTube link to your friends. Tell them about it out loud. Whatever means work best for you. The more people that know about the Cadillac Society podcast, the merrier. Stay tuned for our 11th episode next week, where we will finally share the long-promised, never-before-seen production figures of the Cadillac CT6 with the Blackwing engine. Until then, be sure to visit CadillacSociety.com for the latest Cadillac news and forums.
Motrolix.
Cadillac Society is an independent enthusiast website and podcast and is not affiliated with, sponsored by, or otherwise associated with Cadillac or General Motors.